Habitats, at least as they were introduced in Utopia, were a diamond that was just found and clawed out of the earth. A rough diamond, but a diamond nonetheless. Then later on in Apocalypse, they were overhauled and they were not all that great, but now as of Federations, the 2.6 update, there has been a significant overhaul to polish that diamond and carving it into the beautiful gem that it is today. Yes, we're going to be talking about the wonders of habitats and how do they work, what do they do, and how can you use them? Well, first of all, habitats come in several flavors, 3 flavors to be exact, and that is their base, their middle, and their advanced tier. At their base version, if we can take a quick look here at some of our setups here, is the size 4 habitat. Now, size 4 habitats are basically the initial stage. It allows for 4 districts to be built on said habitat, and that may seem like a lot. However, due to the style of habitats that you can build, you may be left in the dust. And I will illustrate as such, because mostly the habitats within the, the districts, at least within the habitats, are a little bit curious. You have your standard habitation district. Unlike normal planetary habitation districts, they don't come with clerks, but they do have some upkeep. At least, you know, they do get a couple of bonuses. Only if you have robots, then you have the joys of maintenance drones. The standard trade district, which gives you +5 clerks, but only +3 housing. Then the leisure district, which gives you +3 housing, but a whole bunch of workers, and especially if you're a rogue servitor, it can cause serious problems because, well, it generates a whole bunch of bio trophies, which can be a problem once again due to the housing. Then if you build your habitat over a mineral patch, you will get the astro mining bay, which generates 3 housing but also 3 workers, unless you are hive mind, and you get +4. And then there's the reactor districts, which gives you once again 3 housing and also 3 workers, and research district, which is 3 housing and all again 3 workers. Now, you may have also immediately identified a big problem here, and that is the general issue with habitats, which is housing. If we have a quick look here at some of our habitats here, you can see that we have 30 housing here, but it's all coming from our habitats. We have from our districts even. We've got 32 housing units here, and that is all coming from our districts, and maybe a little bit of a dash here from our central habitat control center. Getting those habitation districts up and running and balancing them properly with your remaining districts is rather important. In this particular example, for instance, we have only 3 districts, but if we go to another one, say this one over here, we also have the reactor districts. And that's only the case here because we've built our habitat over a energy patch, which is down on this planet. As mentioned before, we can do the same thing with our astro mining bays, and we can put an habitat over minerals, and the same for research. If we have any of our standard research items or the dark matter or any of the other special resources, we can get research out of them. Now, why would you build habitats to begin with? It is all about optimizing the amount of resources that you can get from space. I'll give you an example here. Let's say that we are in this system over here. As you can see, we have 10 minerals being generated by this particular outcrop. 10.2 even. That's a reasonable amount of minerals. However, if we find ourselves a nice little mining station over here, you will see that we are generating 137 minerals from this station, and that is only because we are generating the magnificent 12 minerals from those astro mining bays, plus a couple of additional bonus because of the mineral purification plants. If we go into our population even, and we take a look at our workers here, as you can see, all of our workers are generating massive amounts of productivity. And once again, it's all about optimizing your available resources in space. And in addition to that, every single habitat is a growth point where your pops can grow. If we go, for instance, towards this place, you will see that we have a lack of housing and a lot of pops available, and they'll be starting to move around. And this particular one, for instance, is based around research. Very important. But however, like I mentioned, the habitats do come in several tiers. Once you've got the technology to upgrade them, or if you've decided to go for the Void Burborn Ascension perk, which personally, if you are going to go habitats, is a must-have because, well, it gives you additional building slots on your planets, which you can then use to, say, build things like a food base if you don't go for any planets, for instance, or mineral production base or alloy production base or even science base, etc. Getting Voidborn is really, really important if you are going to go down with habitats, especially with the habitability bonus. Very, very nice. Do be aware that if you don't have Utopia or Federations, you will not have access to this, or habitats in general. So how do you even get habitats? Well, it's actually relatively straightforward. All we have to do is go into our tech tree, go to our research items here, and what we need to do is we need to get access to the third tier of Starbase, which is the Star Hold, which comes in relatively early in the game. If we quickly scroll down here, there it is, Star Hold. It's one of the first techs in the game that you can get. You can use this to basically line yourself into habitats. How do you do that? Well, you just make sure that you have the right type of scientist available. Hopefully that you've got yourself a Voidcraft engineer available, because then you will be able to select more Voidcraft technologies in the future. A scientist that is applied to their science role will most likely research the technologies that are within their group, or at least technologies will become available that are within their group. So it's really important early on, if you want to go for habitats, that you have in fact a Voidcraft scientist available fairly early so that you can beeline towards set technology base. In addition, Voidcrafts in general are available relatively early on, usually around your second tradition. Your first tradition tier will most likely be a technological ascendancy followed by Voidborn in this particular case. But yeah, you can beeline that technology relatively quickly. Let's talk about cost though. Building a habitat is pretty expensive. If we go in here, it's 150 influence and 1500 alloys, and that can be pretty expensive, especially in the early game. So working with habitats really requires you to have a very, very strong alloy economy and not really expanding all that much, because you're going to run into problems, mainly because every single system you expand into is going to have a alloy cost as well as an influence cost. And that alloy cost, of course, can really hold you back. If you go way too wide, then you won't have the alloys to do anything with your particular resources. So when you go alloys early on, you may want to kind of slow down your expansion speed a little bit, because, well, not having alloys available to yourself is going to be a real problem once again. So yeah, habitats, they are incredibly powerful. Should you build them? Absolutely. If you can, the more places you can build new pops, it's amazing. You can specialize your resources quite effectively, and especially if you don't have that many planets available, it gives you a great way to protect, for instance, choke nodes. So for instance, if we go into this system over here, this has a little choke node inside of it. As you can see on the map, there's only one way into the system. And then we have got this little bad boy over here, which is in fact a fortress station. What that means is that we can fill up this entire thing with fortresses, and the AI or whomever is attacking you will have a difficult time trying to get through there, unless of course they have got jump drive and they can just jump over it. But if you have a fortress station, a properly set up fortress station, if I can quickly find one here in my list, because I do have quite a bunch of them. There you go. So if we go to our armies here, as you can see, we have 3,400 soldiers on this place all by itself. And it's going to be incredibly difficult to take. There's a Dyson sphere in here, but nobody will be able to take over the system until they have cracked the hypothetical place here. And in addition, additional armies and fortresses and stuff like that do increase naval capacity by a rather significant amount. So that's another vector that you can think of. If you're running into problems trying to expand your fleet power because you don't really have enough space to put anchorages, or you just simply don't have the capacity to build more anchorages, building habitats is a great way to boost your fleet power, or at least your fleet capacity. You're still going to need to build those ships, but yeah, having the capacity for them is really, really good. So let's quickly recap. Habitats, how do you get them? Just get yourself in the starholds and keep researching down that Voidcraft line. Get yourself the Ascension perk when necessary. Gather yourselves 150 influence as well as 1500 alloys and just slap them down. I would highly recommend slapping them down immediately on a science tile because your science will grow exponentially. Of course, if you need the minerals or energy, those are good options as well. It really depends on what you need at the moment. But still, science is definitely the way to go for very fast teching in this particular case. But keep an eye on all of your habitats in terms of population. You will need the Voidborn Ascension perk, not only so that you can put additional buildings on there, but also that you can expand your habitation. Because, and this is something I didn't cover earlier on, you can then build paradise domes on your habitats, which will increase the housing by almost as much as one district, which is normally +8, and with Paradise Domes, it's +7. Very, very nice and very, very good to have. Also, the amenities bonus is really nice to have. From that moment onwards, it's really your oyster. Continue to expand down the tech line, getting more and more habitat technology. If you have gone down the Voidborn path with the Ascension perk, you will automatically unlock the ability to get the next habitation tier already, at least in terms of technology, which is really, really nice. And then if you get master builders on top of that, you can just spam habitats pretty much everywhere and keep growing until you have so many pups you don't know what to do with them. I hope this video was useful to you and that you've learned something today, because habitats are something, well, is something that should be used more by more players. Make sure you get Utopia. It is one of the better expansions. Of course, if you're playing with Void Dwellers and Federations, you already have access to them, so it is good fun. But yeah, habitats, go and try them out. They are good fun. And in the meantime, though, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And of course, there is these nice little videos on your screen right now that you can go and check out. I've selected them just for you, just so that you can learn more about the game as well, which is, you know, nice. Thank you so much for my patrons as well for making this video possible. And until next time, make sure you take good care of yourselves. And as always, build those habitats.